Welcome, everyone, to the fourth episode of ODPi Member Conversations. We are pleased to be joined today by Neil Stokes. Neil's a worldwide analytics architect leader focusing on the data lake technologies from IBM. And we're going to talk a lot about data lake, cognitive, and some of the other stuff that IBM has going on. But Neil, I just wanted to start off by welcoming you to the podcast.
Thank you. Pleased to be here, and hope we can have some useful dialogue.
Definitely. Well, let's hop right into that dialogue and dig into our first topic here. So, if you've been paying attention to IBM, you definitely know that cognitive has been the message. And so, as a starting point, let's talk about that in particular. What is the Watson and cognitive vision for IBM?
Okay, so I guess there's many ways of answering that question. So I'll kind of answer it in two parts. Firstly, around about how would we define cognitive? Because again, you ask 10 people, you'll probably get at least 12 answers. Mm-hmm. But the way we see this is the fusion of, broadly speaking, what we would call artificial intelligence techniques. Things like machine learning, natural language processing, text analytics, ancillary things that go around, such as speech-to-text and text-to-speech, to apply these sorts of techniques to the augmentation of human capabilities. So to allow us to do things alongside people and to do things that have historically been the purview of the human being. Not to replace humans, but to assist and augment typically what's capable. If you think about the original Watson, which was the Jeopardy playing machine, it was really about being able to listen to a question, parse the question, look at the corpus of data available to give you a set of potential answers, score those in your head, and come up with an answer that was worth giving or not, depending upon the degree of confidence. So again, not something that a human being couldn't do, but something that the machine was able to do much, much faster. So that's the first part of the answer. The second part is that, okay, what are we doing with that? How are we applying it? Because there's only so many games of Jeopardy that you can win. But we've basically done two categories of things. One is to apply those sorts of capabilities to specific problems. You'll see quite a few press releases, for example, around things we've done in the medical space with emergency medicine to assist ER docs. In the biomedical research space, where Watson is trolling through reams of available medical literature, looking for available indicators for doing things like finding new biomarkers for certain types of tumors, for example. So that's the direct application of this to real-world problems. And the second thing we're doing with these techniques is embedding them into our compute capabilities, so that dealing with things that have typically been difficult, the problem of doing real-time curation of large volumes of data arriving at high velocity, being able to classify that data and act upon it. These are tools and techniques that we have, and into which we're embedding these cognitive capabilities to make things easier and make things practical that haven't been practical before. So sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but it was kind of a multifaceted question.
No, I mean, that was a great answer. I have a little bit of echo on the line. No, that was a really good answer, and it's so interesting when I hear people talk about cognitive in things these days, and especially artificial intelligence, because there's this, it used to be the trend of, oh, okay, this is the slow path to computers replacing humans, but I like a little bit of how you phrased and talked about, in the medical field, it's about helping us as humans be enabled to make better decisions. It's not making the decisions for us. It's about helping do some level of reasoning and do some level of depth and research, and just being able to extend our own capabilities to execute that much better. It to me, that's a powerful message, and that's really truly, if you boil it down, it's what we're trying to do here.
Yeah, I mean, one sort of data point there, an engagement that we did with one of the leading oncology hospitals here in the United States on the research space. The team of docs that were working on that, and we were working with IBM, said that the amount of literature that the machine was able to read would have taken them 38 years in their estimate to have actually plowed through that.
Wow.
And come up with the insights versus it took about 6 months, which about 4 months was training the system to understand oncology, and then it was able to draw out and again, not necessarily make decisions, but to offer hypotheses, potential golden nuggets that you can then go work for, and to provide a degree of confidence around those hypotheses, so that then a human can then make decisions supporting that, understanding the degree of confidence that surrounds it.
Definitely. Well, it's a fascinating space, and as we're here in ODPi, we're very much focused on helping with this continual innovation, but helping develop a sense of trust between vendors and customers as they're looking to sort of deploy these solutions out here and take advantage of them in a meaningful way. And I think that's sort of a segue to our second topic here. So as you think about cognitive, and we think about ODPi compliance and in the Hadoop environment, what's the relation? So how does an ODPi compliant Hadoop environment relate to cognitive?
Well, in the broadest sense, interoperability is key here, and the ability to be able to ingest and make sense of the broadest possible corpus of data. Because it goes back to the age-old garbage in, garbage out problem, where any system, cognitive or not, is only as good as the corpus of data that it has access to, and of course to the training to which it's being subjected. But in terms of the corpus of data there, being able to easily access the broadest possible set of data to give the system the best possible basis upon which to formulate its recommendations, that's key. So, and groups like ODPi who have the ability to facilitate that level of interoperability across vendors, across platforms, across different technologies, I think that there's a tremendous value that groups like ODPi bring to that.
Well, definitely we see the big opportunity out there is how can we how can we really help shore up and add confidence to end users looking to make investments in this area, and driving compliance, driving standards, and then just driving sort of those investments and feedbacks back to the upstream Apache projects, which everyone benefits from, is certainly a path we see to do that. And it's great to see how that then continues to have that impact on just areas that are so much in the forefront, like cognitive. It certainly just helps continue to drive the sustainability in an ecosystem like this.
It's certainly and I think a long-running and an evolving topic in that we have this level of standards compliance capabilities, interoperability in the Hadoop space. But now we're starting to see additional technologies starting to appear, and I think again, it's going to be something that vendors such as IBM and standards bodies such as ODPi have got to continue to look at. And it's a little bit of a crapshoot in some sense, in that you're kind of betting on the viability of certain technologies going forward. But we got to start looking at what's beyond Hadoop and the new technologies that are capable. And can we do something that will provide that same degree of confidence, not only in the Hadoop space, but in the things that are coming down the line, so that we don't take ourselves into a corner for the future?
I couldn't agree more, and you've teased out topic 3, I think, perfectly with your response there. So, from an IBM view, you hit the nail on the head. This is an evolving ecosystem. What do you see as the role that ODPi will be able to play?
Well, I think you have a tremendous opportunity here to. Groups like ODPi are at the forefront of technological development. You're watching what's going on. Like I say, to some extent, you're kind of making some educated bets. But the ability to take what's coming next and provide the standards for that, the things that are as Hadoop evolves and we start seeing new services and new projects emerge and come to the forefront, being able to bring those into the level of the standards, but then also to look at the things that are complementary to that. What's coming in alongside Hadoop that will start to provide additional complementary capabilities, and can we extend the compliance to start to embrace those capabilities as well? I mean, it becomes, I guess, continually a more and more difficult thing as the scope broadens. But I think there's the value is to continue to embrace and encourage that trust and confidence across the entire marketplace in the evolving. In the evolution of the technology, shall we say?
Yeah, well, I think this has been the one area I was at the Gartner Data and Analytics Summit last week, and I was talking with a few analysts, and it was on sort of the subject of talent and things like this in this industry, and I think one of the thoughts that they threw out there is many of the early folks in this space sort of viewed the complexity as sort of by design with Hadoop and these sort of related technologies, which I think to a degree is very true, but that there's a natural that sort of naturally runs as an antithesis to trust, right? I mean, complex isn't necessarily bad, but if it's building complexity in a sense where it's difficult to know where this is going, it's difficult to make confident investments, it's difficult to really help derive value, and if you're that C-level executive that has a shaky hand when you're signing that check, that's a challenge, and I think. Yeah, I obviously feel that ODPi can help, help in that area, and it's great to have vendors that see that as a net positive for this ecosystem, and don't necessarily see sort of the competitive nature, but see, hey, a rising tide lifts all boats, and I think that's sort of the best way to help think about a technology like this as it continues to evolve.
Yeah. Competition is going to be a fact of life, but at the same time, I mean, when you look at the last 20 plus years of the industry since we from the old world to the web-based industry. We've also seen an increasing level of commoditization where the lower level technologies sort of get pushed down, and there's not the same level of value add there that you had before. But as the technologies evolve and the capabilities evolve, you start to see new opportunities for adding value and for vendors to make money through that value, rather than sort of clinging to the base technology. So again, I guess this comes back to something that organizations like ODPi can really help with, is that if the vendors in the space, let me sort of broaden that out and say the innovators in the space who may or may not be vendors, but if we then have a base level of compliance and standards that sit down at those lower levels of technology, then we all know what we're playing with, and we're not saying to people, oh, if you use my version of this particular value-add tool, you can only use it on these particular Hadoop distributions. The ability to kind of have a broader application, and for consumers of these offerings to be able to have the level of trust that's going to work together. I think that is also another role that a very valuable role that you can play.
Yeah, no, that's really insightful, and I think it's a sign with views like that that this market is definitely certainly maturing, which I think is great for everyone. So I would be remiss if we didn't have a topic that sort of addressed a lot of your specialty. You have data lake in your title here, so I definitely want to get your take on that. So topic 4, what is IBM's point of view on the evolution of the data lake? And this is obviously a huge, you got lots of vendors in this space. You have lots of good information. You have lots of confusing information. So I love sort of the flair in that. And then sort of the second part is, you look at ODPi, and we've talked about standards and developing trust. What can ODPi do?
Well, firstly, we have a somewhat, IBM has a somewhat different view to perhaps some other vendors in the space around the data lake, because there's a very popular sort of school of thought that says, it's all about Hadoop. And certainly Hadoop is a big part of that, and it's allowed us to do some tremendous advances in terms of being able to address large volumes of data. But and in fact, I've just been talking to a number of clients about this today, in that it really comes down to the consumption patterns that surround the data, or what you're trying to do with it, in terms of what is the best, first of all, way to store it, and then secondly, way to access it. And there are certainly elements and a variety of different capabilities within the Hadoop ecosystem that can support that. And which of those you use really does get determined eventually, I think, by the consumption patterns. But sometimes you're going to have to go outside of Hadoop. There are still places for relational and columnar stores, particularly where you're talking about large numbers of users attaching low latency requirements for interactive queries. And at the other end of the spectrum, we're starting to see object stores appear now as a valid part of the data lake. Again, particularly where either you've got data coming from object-based applications on the operational side, or if you've got data that you just want to grab and hope you never have to access, but you have to store it for some, for example, regulatory reasons. So I think it's starting to broaden the scope of what kind of storage and what kind of access methods do we use. And then the other thing which really gives us a great opportunity to, I guess, avoid the mistakes of the past, is around information governance. Being able to adequately ingest and understand the data so that it is consumable by more than just IT users or data scientists, but to really kind of democratize the data and make it available to business users in a controlled manner with all the appropriate authentications and authorizations around that. But to reduce time to value by being able to allow people to find the data they need more easily, understand it, and thereby trust it. As I said to somebody this morning, if you're going to be an insight-driven enterprise and make mission-critical decisions based upon insights that you derive from your analytics, you better trust the insights, and you better be able to trust the data from which you base those insights, because otherwise, you're in very dangerous ground. And trust comes from understanding, and understanding comes from good organization and good governance.
Yeah, no, it's really interesting because I see the data scientists and engineers of today that had been really focused on report and dashboard building. They're gonna shift over time to being they're gonna shift over time to be kind of more of the people that are gonna be doing that data assembly and massaging in the background, and it's going to be the line of business users at the front end that are going to be much more focused on dashboard building, report building, because as you point out, as the governance abilities improve, I mean, we're still going to be stuck with the age-old garbage in, garbage out. I mean, I think that's been a topic for the last 30 years, and I guarantee we'll probably be talking about the same thing in 30 years from now. But just the ability just the ability to better structure this unstructured data, which truly isn't unstructured, it's just data yet to be structured, and helping get those line of business users more enabled, that's where the insights start to happen, right? And so it's less, because I've always found in my experience, as people start to get more armed with data, their curiosity will naturally start to perk up, and then that starts to enable them to go ask the next question. It's rarely one question and done. It's one question that then opens up another one, which opens up another one, which opens up another one. And I think enabling that loop is really going to be critical. So I think that was very fascinating there. I also sort of, kind of steering back to your point in the data lake. So I love sort of your take there, around the standard side, because I mean, definitely, I see where you're kind of going there of, hey, including different sorts of data within there is going to be crucial, but the challenges start to come in the security and governance area. All of these systems have different rules. All these systems may have different structures, different ways of interpreting that. I've heard topics such as logical data warehouse sort of come up as a way of perhaps encapsulating this. So I'd love to kind of pause there, sort of get your take. Okay, from a standards perspective, okay, where do you see ODPi being able to play a role?
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the head there in terms of logical data warehouse, data reservoirs, another term we're starting to see from the analyst community now. And I think the next big challenge is going to be, not so much the ingestion and storage and access of the data, but the governance that goes around it. We're starting to see the emergence of technologies like Atlas, which is still in the incubator phase right now, is emerging very fast as an interchange mechanism for metadata. And again, like a lot of these things that start to percolate up and have extreme potential, I think I hesitate to use the term support of standards bodies, but the getting some focus from the standards bodies on these types of technologies to really promote the interoperability of metadata management across multiple platforms, is going to be tremendously valuable. I mean, when people first start to implement Atlas, we're going to see some tweaks, just like we did with web services and just like we did with some of the base Hadoop discussions. But I mean, think about it. Nobody argues about the implementations of ODPC or JDBC these days.
No.
That's kind of the goal that we need to aim for in things like the Hadoop space and what it evolves into, and also in the information governance space that surrounds that.
Definitely. Well, this is. I could tell this is a passion area of yours, and some definite forward thinking that you are doing.
I have a lot of scars, put it that
way. I can understand that, and that insight and the scars you have, I think, are really appreciated by the folks on this podcast, along with all the customers and partners you work with. So it's kind of skipping ahead here, getting to our last topic, topic 5. Talked about Watson Data Platform, and that was sort of really the big splash of late last year there. But I don't think sometimes people maybe realized how much IBM has invested around the big data and Hadoop space, and especially in the open source. So maybe can you talk maybe a little bit about that?
We're doing a lot in and have done a lot in open source. I mean, you go all the way back to my first experience with it was in the around 2000 with Eclipse in the application development arena. But since then, we've been doing an awful lot of work. We're the number 2 contributor to Spark, for example. We're putting a lot of investment behind again Apache Atlas to bring that out of incubator phase as fast as possible and help mature that. And there's a large number of other things that we're doing right across the big data arena. Now, some of those things I say are down in the open source space itself, and some are in terms of add-ons that we apply on top of that, which are, you can argue, proprietary, but given the fact that we're a strong supporter of ODPi, we see that this is something that is going to help with sort of breaking out of that proprietary nature. I mean, yes, there may be a proprietary engine there, but if you're talking, for example, in our data virtualization technology, if you're talking ANSI SQL as your input, and then under the seams, you've got an ODPi compliant Hadoop distribution that you're going against to access and retrieve the data. There's still a high degree of comfort amongst a client who's working with that they're going to be able to use standards compliant technologies on either end.
Definitely, and I think IBM has always been a leader in understanding sort of how standards fit and shape our world, but then also within open source and how that's an enabler for technology.
I might argue against that if you go back to the 1970s and the 1980s, but let's just say being proprietary top to bottom does not work for you.
Yep. Well, I think, let's say that IBM sort of pioneered the path out of that. I think they were sort of one of the first folks that realized, hey, we could go the proprietary up and down the model, but certainly you quickly start to realize where the value you can add for vendors. And I think that sort of thinking has bred so many companies out there that base a lot of their either work on open source or just field out open source as a part of their strategy.
Indeed, I mean, there's a huge open source ecosystem out there, and not just the community of developers, but the people who surrounded that. And we talked about complexity back at the start. I mean, yes, there is some complexity in this because a lot of the projects are relatively granular, and there's a space in the world for the organizations that are going to come in and take some of that complexity out, or at least shield the end users from it. Then to me, again, there's the other piece of it is the interoperability side, whereby new things can start to be developed in these innovations that are being popped up all over the place. But at the same time, to have a broad applicability and therefore sustainability, because due to a common agreement through standards organizations on the base technologies, these things become plugins and can operate across a broad spectrum of core technologies. And that means that these people aren't niche players. They're able to make a sustainable organization and let's face it, a sustainable living out of supporting these cores.
And sustainability is what we believe in, not only from an ODPi perspective, but a Linux Foundation perspective. And investing in technology to be sustainable for the long term helps our society move forward, helps give everybody confidence and trust, and just helps us be better human beings. And be more effective in this world and be able to make more of a difference. So it's sort of a refreshing way to look at where we're going as a society and encapsulating it, within the context of big data, I suppose.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's easy to kind of get wrapped up in the commercial aspects of a lot of what we do as an IT industry, but at the end of the day, it's about leaving the planet a better place than you found it. And as individuals and as organizations, if we can do a little bit towards that, then to me that's an entirely good thing.
I completely agree. Well, hey, Neil, this has been a great conversation. Thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate your insight, your wisdom, the insights from IBM, and participating in today's podcast.
Delighted to have had the chat with you, and yes, please, if anybody on the phone, I'm sure they can. If you have further comments, questions, and you want to follow up, I'm sure I'll be able to put you in touch with me.
Definitely, we definitely will. Thank you so much, Neil, and thank you everyone who joined us today. As always, if you're interested in getting involved with ODPi, a number of different ways. We have the specifications and the work we have on GitHub. You can go check that out. Along with on there is information around the special interest groups that we're driving. Things, if topics like data security and governance, for example, are of interest. We have a special interest group specifically around that. You can find out more on our GitHub website. If you're an end user of this technology, we have an end user advisory board we've established. We've got really great insights. We have a diversity of participants across industry verticals, from technology to entertainment, to automotive. Check out our website, odpi.org/odpi-n-users. And if movements like this and the work of standardization is something that you believe in as an organization, and really want to continue to see that grow, join ODPi as a member. Check out the website, odpi.org/members. I want to thank everyone for joining today, and look forward to our next conversation.